what we're gonna do and the way we're gonna do this masterclass is that I have a few slides to share with you about the theory behind the zero-waste cooking and the mindset. After that, I prepared a little tasting for you of some zero-waste elements. I will do a few items in terms of trimmings, and we will have time to cover any questions that you might have. And hopefully my slides are working now, and they are not. They were working all this time until now. Thank you so much. All right. So most of you know my name, but my name is Vojtech Végh, and I'm a zero-waste and plant-based chef. I have also opened the world's first zero-waste and vegan restaurants in Cambodia in 2018. I also closed that restaurant. And recently, I partnered with Vino as their zero-waste culinary advisor. I also wrote a book of my own called The Food Waste Guide for Chefs, which covers the basics of food waste prevention in kitchen for chefs. But of course, I wasn't always a zero-waste chef. I also wasted a lot of food in kitchens in my earlier days as well. One of the first experiences with in my career was, as I was traveling a lot across the world, all I've seen in every single kitchen was that big bag of black bin full of food waste and edible waste going into the bin every single day at the end of the shift. Now, I come from a very humble background where we've grown pretty much everything ourselves, so we put a lot of value on the food that we grown ourselves. So I wasn't used to seeing that much waste, and it didn't make much sense to me looking at the business. When we are in the business of selling and monetizing food, why are we wasting so much? And I had a bit of a light bulb moment in one of the restaurants I was lucky enough to work at. It was a new opening of a very high-end restaurant in Scandinavia where the head chef was hyper-focused on all byproducts and trimmings that are usually wasted. So one of the first jobs that I had when I walked into the kitchen on my first day was cutting parsley stems into perfect 4mm long bits. After that, I was cutting sweet potato peels with scissors into perfect shapes. So that was a bit odd for me to have that kind of an experience in this restaurant. But what I've seen in the following days and weeks as I was working there is that all of that focus that went into using all of these byproducts was never to reduce food waste. The word food waste or sustainability or zero waste wasn't even mentioned in that kitchen even once. And none of that was done to reduce food waste. Everything that the chef was doing was to make the most out of every ingredient and to explore the culinary opportunities that we have with every ingredient. We were simply looking for more flavor, for new textures, and how to make the most of everything that we have in our kitchens and to put as much as possible on our plates that we are cooking. And let me tell you that that was a very high-end restaurant where the diners paid hundreds of euros for their dinner. And we've been feeding them fish skin, potato peels, herb stems, and all sorts of things that are normally in a bin. None of that was obvious, and none of that was done to reduce the cost. All of that was done to make the most of every ingredient. So when I saw that, I thought to myself that if we can do that at such high level, then surely some of this must be applicable and replicable in other kitchens as well. So as most chefs, including me, I was always dreaming about having my own restaurant. At that moment, I decided that if I ever get the chance to open a restaurant of my own, I will want to make it zero waste. So that's what I did. A few years later, I got to open my very own zero waste and plant-based restaurant in Cambodia. Now, that was in 2018. At the time, it happened to be the world's first zero waste and vegan restaurant. It wasn't my intention at all. But everything that was in that restaurant was, in fact, zero waste in a very dogmatic way. Not only the food, but everything that you're looking at that photo, which is a photo of the dining room of the restaurant, was in some way recycled or upcycled, including the furniture, the staff uniforms, the menu papers that we used, the coasters that we used, the glasses that we had. Everything was handmade locally from upcycled materials with small craftsmen. And that was, of course, reflected in the food as well, because, after all, my kitchen did not have any bin. So there was no bin in the kitchen. So we had to work with everything that came into that kitchen. And it was a part of the plan. It wasn't a spontaneous decision. I've been planning for that for more than 2 years. The menu was planned to the smallest detail, where everything was circled back to a different use on the menu. What you're looking at was one of the most popular dishes on the menu that we had. We've been serving a tasting menu for dinner. And this is a cold watermelon soup served as a dessert using all parts of the watermelon, including the watermelon rind. So we have watermelon juice, you have watermelon syrup, you have candied watermelon rind, you have marinated watermelons, and you have some fresh basil and basil syrup. So it's only 2 ingredients on that plate, utilizing everything from one single ingredient. And there is a lot that goes into a bin in any given kitchen. And before we can really start talking about the food waste and going deeper into, I think it's really important to define that what is actually food waste and what is zero waste cooking. So zero waste cooking, to me, is not about the perfect zero. It's not about chasing that perfection, but it's about doing as much as you can with what you have. The zero waste cooking is about trying to be as close as possible to the zero, knowing that that perfect zero might not be there, and it's not important. It will always be more important to reduce your waste by 50% rather than not reducing it at all. So the zero waste cooking is not about the zero. We can rename it to low waste, 5% waste, 10% waste, or anything that you like. But the zero waste is a term that I use around that. And what is food waste? Food waste, to me, and in my work, is everything that is edible and suitable for human consumption, but is not on the plate. So everything that we could have eaten, but we didn't use, we didn't put on our plates, went into the bin. All of that is food waste. So things like animal bones or pineapple skins or like mango pits and things like that that aren't really consumable, I don't consider that as food waste because animal bones will always end up in the bin. We can extract the flavor, but we can't eat the bone. But everything that is edible has nutritional value and is suitable for human consumption. All of those things are food waste. So, speaking about the bins and how much waste we have in our kitchens, do you actually know what is in your bin? How many of you here are confident that you know what is in your bin? Now, put your hands up if you think that you can tell me off the bat what is in your bin, in your kitchen. Not one. One, okay, okay. You know what's in your bin. Okay, so that's one person that is confident about knowing what is in their bin. Now, why am I asking? The reason being is that if we don't know what is in our bins, then we can't reduce it. We can't do anything about it. If we don't know what is in our bins in our kitchens, we can't do anything about it. Food waste prevention and the reduction of your food waste starts with finding out what is in your bin. You have to know what's in your bin. And I won't use that famous phrase that what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed, because I don't think it applies to everything, but it does apply to food waste. Because if we don't know how much we are wasting, where our waste is coming from, what exactly is being wasted and when, then how are we going to reduce that? It all becomes a guesswork. And to me, the easiest way to find out what is in my bin is to simply measure my food waste. Is to have a tool, have something that helps me out. I can use a window system. I can have an intelligent AI camera over my bin, looking at everything that goes into my bin and telling me right away through simplified data that how much I'm wasting, when, what items, and I can figure out why. If I don't have that, what I used to do in my early days, if I went to a site, to a kitchen, and I wanted to know what's in their bins, my only option was to put on gloves, take out bin bags, spread it out on a table, make a big mess, and dig through manually the food bin, the food waste bin, take photos of it, and try to figure out why is it all of these items in a bin and when they went into the bin. So then I can make a decision around how can I reduce it. Now that's a very dirty job. It's a very time-consuming thing. It's not my favorite part of the work that I used to be doing. With tools like Vino, I can simply sit in my office, open a laptop, spend 5 minutes looking at the dashboard, see what went into the bin today, why, figure out the timings, and look at the data that is broken down into simple ways. To me, as a chef, it becomes an invaluable tool to have in my kitchen because it literally does not get any easier than that. And there is a lot of waste that we have in our kitchens. And from my experience, we as humans, not only as chefs, we tend to underestimate the amount of food waste we have in our kitchens. We think it's only the essential, but the question is, how much is essential and who gets to decide? So food waste prevention starts with food waste measurement. That will always be the first step. If you want to make an action without having to do your guesswork, food waste measurement is the easiest way to start. Now, I have another question for you. What two things are in every single kitchen's bin around the world? It doesn't matter what region, what country they are in, what cuisine they are cooking, how big is the kitchen, what type of operations you have. There are two things that are in every single kitchen's bin around the world. I'd love to hear some guesses. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Eggshells? Salad? Bread? Fruit? Yeah. Peels? Yeah. Skin peels? Yeah. Eggshells? Yeah. A lot of good tips. It's these two things. It's time and money are the two most wasted things around the world in every single kitchen. Now, why time? It's all that time that goes into growing an ingredient from the moment we plant the seed into the soil, we grow it, we harvest it, we transport it, package it, deliver it, comes to my prep table in my kitchen, and if I waste 30 or 40% of my raw ingredient, I wasted all of that time that went into growing that one ingredient. So all of the time goes into the bin. If I'm wasting food that has already been prepared and cooked in my kitchen, I'm also wasting the time and resources of my chefs. That's all the man hours, that's all the energy and everything that went into cooking that food. So time will always be in my bin as long as there is edible food. And money is obvious because we pay for our ingredients, but we tend to miscalculate the amounts that we have in our bins because we look at trimmings and raw ingredients in our bins as something less valuable. But what we forget about that we buy our ingredients in one piece. So my watermelon trimmings cost exactly the same as my watermelon flesh because I buy that ingredient in one piece. And the second thing that we tend to forget to calculate is that we buy our ingredients with the intention to resell them with margin. And that doesn't happen if I waste my raw ingredient. That means that it's all that potential margin is in the bin as well, which makes it about 3 or 4 times higher than the raw purchasing price of that ingredient. And again, if I'm wasting prepared and cooked food, it's all that money that I'm paying my people to cook that food is in the bin as well. So time and money will always be in the bin as long as there is edible food in my bin. There is one particular type of hospitality business that is in a perfect position to reduce the food waste. And I have a few options for you. So it can be a small bistro, it can be a hotel, a catering, or a fine dining restaurant. So who thinks that it's easiest to reduce food waste in a small bistro? Who thinks it's option A? No? Okay. Who thinks it's option B? Who thinks that hotels have it the easiest to reduce food waste? Okay, a few more. Who thinks it's a catering business? A few more. And anyone thinking fine dining restaurants have it the easiest? Oh, lots of hands. Okay. In the best position will always be hotels. And that is because hotels is one of the very few types of hospitality businesses that houses multiple different kitchens under one roof. And that gives you almost an unfair advantage over other hospitality businesses. So when we look at standalone restaurant on a high street, if they want to reduce their prep waste or kitchen waste, and they want to circle it back into use, their only option is to circle it back into the one menu that they have. So if they serve lunch or dinners with one menu, their only option is to bring it back into that same menu. And if they can't, then it becomes wasted. But in hotels, you might have 3 or 4 outlets of different kinds. You might have a breakfast buffet, in-room dining, a lobby bar, banquets and events, in-room amenities, a pool bar, and all kinds of things. You have so many different types of kind of small businesses under one roof. So if you can't use a byproduct in one kitchen in one place, you have choice of another 5 or 6 or more places where you can utilize that product fully. So if you can't use it on your a la carte menu, you might be able to use it in an in-room dining menu or for an amenities. You might be able to turn your byproducts and trimmings into a liquid form and use it behind the bar. You have so many different opportunities and so many more opportunities to extract the flavor and make the most of every single ingredient compared to other businesses that don't have that opportunity. So hotels will always have it easiest and are in a unique position to reduce their food waste. And with that being said, as I mentioned byproducts quite a few times, are byproducts really byproducts? Or is there even such a thing as a byproduct? And I believe that byproduct is a creation of a human's mind. I think that we created the idea of byproducts for ourselves. So when we look at nature and you look at leaves falling from the tree, as they fall on the ground, they become something else. They become an essential material for the new life under the tree. So if you walk into a forest, you will not see byproducts of nature. Everything is a product necessary for something else. But humans have created garbage bins and landfills. So we gave ourselves the luxury of possibility to have such a thing as a byproduct. Now we can decide what is the byproduct and what is the main product. Now we can decide how much of my product I want to use, which part I like, which part I don't like, and I can simply hide it in my bin and it's gone. It's not there, I only want this. And I think that this idea is created in our minds, because the idea of byproduct is something that we created. Nature doesn't know byproducts. So everything can be a product, and almost everything can be utilized in the kitchen. And creating or not creating byproducts comes down to a mindset. And I have a concept of thinking that I call the black truffle mindset. And it's something that's applicable to every kitchen, doesn't matter if it's luxury or not, if you are actually using black truffles or not. But most of you, at least those of you who are chefs or have kitchen experience, you know what happens in the kitchen when you receive fresh black truffles. There is almost a shift in the attitude. Sometimes chefs gather around the table, take photos. This is the expensive, precious ingredient that we have in our kitchens. You hold it carefully. You don't let anyone touch it. You handle it very carefully. It has its little special container in the fridge. You don't let anyone near it. This is the black truffle. It's very expensive. And when you work with it, when you shave it over the plate, you pick up every little crumb from the past, put it back into the plate. If there is a piece that is too small to shave, you throw it in a bin. Nobody throws black truffle in a bin. You take that tiny little piece, you put it into a sauce, infuse it in oil, use it for something. You use 100% of every black truffle that you receive in your kitchen. But we don't do that with other ingredients. And to me, that is the biggest proof that we already have the zero waste mindset. We already know how to work with an ingredient in such a way that nothing goes into the waste. We already know how to handle an ingredient so mindfully and carefully that not a tiniest crumb is wasted. But we don't apply the same mindset to the so-called common ingredients, carrots, cucumbers, and potatoes, and tomatoes, and watermelons. We trim them. We might trim a bit more than actually necessary, but I mean, who cares? It's cheap, right? So a centimeter here or there, it doesn't matter. We trim a lot of everything. And we waste a lot of our trimmings and byproducts from these ordinary ingredients. And I know what you're probably thinking. Like, black truffle is a lot more expensive than, say, a watermelon or a cucumber. And you are absolutely right. But how many black truffles you use in a year? And how many cucumbers you use in a year? You might be using cucumbers every single day in your kitchen, and you most probably do. If not cucumbers, then carrots, or potatoes, or watermelons, or something else. If there is 1 extra centimeter of trimming on every single cucumber, every single day, throughout an entire year, for multiple years, you are surely wasting a lot more than you would waste by throwing half of a black truffle in the bin. But we would never waste half of the black truffle. But we waste so much of our other trimmings. And that's only one product. And what if we do that with every of our product that we have in our kitchens? What if we do that extra centimeter across 20 different ingredients every single day, every single ingredient for an entire year? There is so much money in our bins, and there is so much flavor in our bins that we could be utilizing. And I believe that it all comes down to having the right mindset to start with, because we can do that with black truffle. We can do that probably with Wagyu beef as well. We can do that with expensive ingredients. But we don't do that with ingredients that we perceive as cheaper. They might be cheaper per kilo, but they are rarely cheaper in a big picture on an annual basis. And there is so much that can be done with every single ingredient. What you're looking at is 31 different ways of a watermelon, including the watermelon rind. And that doesn't mean that every ingredient should be utilized cooked veggies that have been blended, seasoned, added some spices to it, turn it into a pate. On top of it is a line of pickled cauliflower leaves, the stem part, and the very last thing is crispy fried cauliflower leaves. So all of these things are typically in the bin. And the ingredient cost of this little snack is only the seasoning and spices. So it's very low and can be monetized and margin added to that and be resold. It can be part of a la carte dishes, it can be part of snack, events, banquets, of whatever. And with that being said, cooking zero waste and having zero waste dishes doesn't mean that every single component of our dish and our plate should be made from upcycled or recycled ingredients. It's not about having every single thing on my plate from something that is typically in a bin, but it's about doing that one thing. Only do the watermelon rind chutney, or pickle the cauliflower leaves and use it on your plate, or make a pate. Just find those one or two things where you can start and that will work in your kitchen that you can be implementing right now. It's never about doing everything and chasing the perfection, but it's about doing the most that you can with what you have. And with that being said, I think that zero waste restaurants shouldn't exist. And that comes from someone who operated one. And the reason I believe that is that I think that zero waste cooking and using 100% of our ingredients should be the default thing in our industry. I think that zero waste restaurants should be simply called a restaurant. And the zero waste chef should be called simply a chef. Because zero waste should be a natural thing that we are doing in our kitchens without the need to highlight that fact. Because if we are not operating zero waste, then what are we operating? Completely wasted? So I really hope that at one point I can stop calling myself zero waste chef, just be a chef. Thank you. What I have prepared for you is tasting of a few elements. By the way, we have a beautiful setup there, but there's not gonna be much live cooking going on other than a tasting and a trimming of a few ingredients that I want to highlight with you. I have prepared a few ingredients here that are made from things that are typically in the bin. Now, I would love you to, those of you want, to come and have a taste. All of you, if you want, you can stand up, you can walk up to me, and you can grab a bite from all of these things. There are spoons in here, there are tissues, there are small plates. And I won't tell you what is it unless you have a serious allergies, and I have to. But I would love you to guess what you are eating. By the way, in the small ramekins that you are seeing here is a chili crunch, but I think that most of you are used to heat. It's very mild anyway. So we have two types of crackers that have a bit of a seasoning on them, and we have a chili crunch next to it, and then I will have a few more items after that for you. Yeah, it's the same setup on both sides.
Are these identical?
Yeah.
All the same yes?
Yes, all the sides are the same. We have two different crackers and a chili crunch, which has utilized an ingredient that is typically wasted in many kitchens. And those of you that can guess what is inside the chili crunch, I brought a copy of my book for someone who can guess the ingredient that is typically not in the chili crunch. It's all the same, yeah. There is more on this side as well. There is more on this side. It's all the same.
I also have to try, chef.
Oh, you go for it.
Can't come all the way and not try. Thank you.
There is more clean spoons in there and there.
This one fell down on the floor.
Thank you. It's all the same. Okay, it's a deep fried potato peel. So a deep fried potato peel, if you just simply deep fry the potato peel and blitz it quick, Thermomix or anything, blend it down and incorporate it into a chili crunch. The rest of the recipe is same as usually it would be. There is nothing special about this recipe apart from me upcycling that potato peel into that. Now, it does not have to be a potato peel. It could have been a carrot peel. It could have been any root vegetable peel as well that can be deep fried, made into a crispy, dry component, blended down, and you have the crispy element of the chili crunch. The rest of the flavor and seasoning is up to you. You can bring that in with the chili and the seasonings. Now, why is this such an opportunity, or what is kind of practical about this is that the first thing that I'm looking at in upcycling my ingredients in the kitchen is that how can I make it in the easiest way possible that is not going to take time away from me or my chefs, and at the same time I'm going to create a long shelf life product that is oftentimes also shelf stable. And what that means in practice is that it takes off the pressure of me having to upcycle that ingredient right away or having to use that new byproduct right away. And the reason that is important is that it saves me time in my kitchen and it makes it easy for me as a chef to do that. Because I already have the potato peels produced, all I need to do is to drop them in the fryer and blend them, which takes no more than 10 minutes. And if I find these 10 minutes, I can create it, I can turn it into a product that's gonna be fine in my fridge for a month, because the chili crunch is shelf stable and long shelf life. So that makes it an easy and universal product that I can use in different ways in my kitchen. So that's only one of the things. And since my book is gone already, there is also this cracker, which has many seeds in it, but seeds are not the byproduct. There are sesame seeds, fennel seeds, and sunflower seeds. I call this the cracker of opportunities, and this is one of my favorite, all-time favorite things to do in any kitchen and to recommend to any chefs, because this is as easy as it gets to incorporate your byproducts into a product. And the reason being is that what has been used in here is bread, basically all leftover bread. So I took all that bread, quickly boil it, blend it down, turn it into a puree. So you're gonna have this bread puree. And you're gonna mix in all the seeds and spices and seasonings, and you have a flaxseed cracker. And the reason that is good is because, as we know, flax seeds, or some call it linseeds, bind with liquids. So typically a flaxseed cracker is made with water and spices and seasonings. But what if I can replace that water for a puree made from my byproducts? And pureeing a byproduct is as easy as it gets. You have to cook it and blend it, and that's something that anyone can do. And it doesn't take almost no time. You cook it, blend it, proceed with the recipe as it is. And this recipe is so simple that I can tell you right now, because it's only 1 part puree, 2 part flax seeds. That's all you need to know. Any spices and seasonings of your choice. 1 part puree, 2 part flax seeds, and you have this cracker made. And it doesn't have to be a bread puree. You can take all your vegetable trimmings and boil them, blend them down to a puree, mix it in with flax seeds, any seeds and spices of your choice that you like. I use fennel, and I use fennel seeds, some dried garlic, paprika powder, and there is some cumin seeds as well, turmeric. But this is not important, because you can choose the spices that you want. It's that cracker that is going to make a difference. And why? Once again, we are looking at a product that has long shelf life and is perfectly shelf stable. You can make that cracker in a really big batch, have it in your dry store for months, and they're gonna be perfectly fine. As long as they are in an airtight container, of course. And that cracker is a universal thing. You can use it as it is. It can be a little snack. You can put a puree on top of it. You can use it as a little canapé or amuse-bouche. You can use it as part of your in-room amenities, bar snacks, as a complimentary thing instead of a bread basket on the table. You can incorporate it into your starters, into your charcuterie plates. You can use it on your cheese boards, and 100 other different ways, because it's just a simple cracker that is universal to use in your kitchens and is super easy to incorporate. And not only incorporate, but also to prepare, because you need to cook something, blend it down, and mix it with seeds. So the recipe is same like making any cracker, but instead you are upcycling your byproducts that you would otherwise be not using. So you can kind of hide everything inside it, because the flaxseed is going to bind with any liquid that you mix it with. So all your leftover bread from the buffet, anything that is in your kitchen that you don't know how to upcycle or use, cook it, blend it, mix it with flax seeds, and you have a perfectly good cracker that you can use in any way in your kitchen. And again, it's the same case like with the chili crunch, is that because it's a long shelf life product, it takes away the pressure of using that product right away. So even if you don't have an immediate use for that, you can use it on your next banquet or your next event. It's gonna be waiting for you in your dry store, being perfectly fine, because it's a completely dry product. And Other cracker that was next to it, this one, the puffed cracker, is also made from bread. There is a bit of tapioca in it. It does not have to be tapioca, it can be a potato starch as well, but it's the same concept. It can be done in really large scale. If you have a big combi ovens, you can put 20 trays in. You can boil all your bread in a big pot, blend it all down. It does not have to be perfectly blended, just blend it into whatever. You have a puree, mix it with tapioca, or sometimes not even required, spread it on a silicone sheet, dehydrate it. It might seem like a long process, but it's all about that passive time, because the active working time to make this is like 15 minutes or maybe 30 minutes in a large scale. But it's a passive time. That means that it's dehydrating overnight. You don't need to do anything about it. Then you take it off the tray and you have it ready in your dry store and you pop it into the fryer when you are ready to go. And that's as easy as it gets again. So crackers and dry products that are long shelf life and shelf stable are some of the easiest wins that you can have in your kitchen that are going to have immediate effects on what you, on how much waste you are producing and what you have in your kitchen. And there was a seasoning powder on some of the crackers that some of you might have tasted. I only dusted half of the plate, but it's this kind of powder. And anyone who wants to taste this, only this separately, can come up here and just have a bit of a taste at the back of the spoon. Anyone who wants to try it. This is a seasoning powder made from all trimmings and byproducts that are too fibrous to use or really had no other use. So think about the outer layer of a broccoli stalk that is too fibrous, or leek roots, for example. I had like kohlrabi leaves, I had like Brussels sprouts leaves of the outer layer. You can even do the dark green skin of the watermelon. So all of those things that are otherwise hard to use or challenging to incorporate in other ways, I took the bunch of those trimmings, I put them into a big jar and made a simple lacto fermentation. And a lacto fermentation is just 2% salt and water, and that's it. It ferments itself, you know, so you don't need to do anything about it. You mix everything together in one jar, put water on it, put salt into it, and you let it ferment for 5 days. Now I took all of these fermented trimmings, dumped it into a trays, put it into a combi oven, dehydrated it overnight. And then I blended it down into a spice. So you have this very strong flavor of combination of salinity and acidity. And the reason I love it as a seasoning powder is that sometimes I might be making a dish where I might not want to use, I want some acidity, but I might not want to use a pickle or a ferment or a wet ingredient. I can just dust a little powder of that and bring in acidity to the dish without having to use a wet pickle or a ferment. So it doesn't have to be that way. You can, of course, make your own homemade kind of spice mix. You can incorporate any other spices that you want as well. The thing here, again, is that it's something that is kind of done by itself, because putting something into a jar takes 5 minutes, taking it out of the jar takes 5 minutes. So if you have these little 5 minutes here and there, with a long breaks in between until you wait until it's fermented, wait until it's dehydrated, take 10 minutes until it's actually, until it's blended down. And once again, you have a shelf-stable product that has long shelf life, very universal to use. You can incorporate it in any kind of way that you like. So that's it for I will leave it here for anyone who wants to taste it. And I have a few other things in here that I have already mentioned. Again, this is open to taste to anyone. This is, I call it a liquid gold. And the reason I didn't give it to you all together at the same time, because I didn't want you to kind of mix and match with these things, because some of them are sweet and would really not work together if you would have it all together. So feel free to come up and help yourself at any time. A liquid gold that is super strong in flavor. And that is the vegetable demi-glaze that I mentioned earlier on the little snack photo that I told you about. And this has so much flavor. It's such a universal product to use in the kitchen. And again, it's something that is really easy to make. And there are so many hotels for whom this is the first step. I have so many hotels who start with this product, because you can start with this like today, like tomorrow. This is super easy to make. All you need to do is to have a container set up in your freezer and tell all your chefs what is going to go into that container. So what you typically put in a good veggie stock, whatever that is, whether it's root vegetables or something else, all of those trimmings go into one container. You have it in your freezer. When it's full, you take that container, you put everything on trays, you dry roast it, put it into a pot, cover it with water, and let it cook. So you are making a stock out of your roasted trimmings. And then you take that liquid and we'll be slowly reducing it until you get this super strong concentrate. So this is something that can be used as a vegan demi-glace. You can have it as a treacle. You can take it the sweet way as well. There are chefs who are using this in their bread. There are chefs who are using this on their plant-based dishes as well. It replaces demi-glace. It introduces more flavor into your dishes in an easy way, and it's perfect for sauces as well. Some chefs use it on the pasta as well. So this is a concentrate of all of your trimmings that you have in your kitchen. And this can be done with any kind of vegetables, as long as there is sweetness, as long as there is flavor in it. If you reduce your stock, if you turn it into reduction, then this is what you're gonna get. And the process is same as making a regular demi-glace. And I have a pineapple in here, and some of you have been guessing that I have used pineapple skin before in the chili crunch. And my question is that how many of you are using pineapple skins in your kitchen? Is there anyone who's utilizing it? Yeah, you use it? In what way are you using it? Like infused water? Ah, okay, yeah, that's nice. And this is what I like about pineapple. So, yeah, tepache. I love tepache. Yeah. Tepache is like a fermented South American Mexican drink made of it, and it's typically or traditionally made out of the pineapple peel because it naturally contains the bacteria that is required for the fermentation. And it's a passive process. It ferments itself. You just need to combine all the ingredients. So very easy to make. One of my absolute favorite things to do with pineapple peels is making pineapple syrup in here. Again, this is here for you to taste. And this has been made from a simple stock. You take off all your pineapple peels that you are already producing in your kitchen anyway, put it all into a pot, put some sugar, some spices like cinnamon, for example, or cloves, turn it into a stock. It takes no more than 30 minutes to make that. You made that kind of stock or a tea. You can use it as it is. There are hotels who are using it as part of their welcome drink. They might have it in their lobby instead of the infused waters. They might use it on their events and banquets as well. And the reason why I like this is that because you can take that stock or tea and reduce it all down into this syrup. And we are back again with a long shelf life product that is pretty much shelf stable. And that's all that I'm looking for in making my first steps in reducing my byproducts. I want to have it long shelf life. I want to have it shelf stable. I want to have it as easy as possible for me and my chefs to start with that in my kitchen. And having a pineapple syrup is pretty much the same thing as having any other fruit syrup in your kitchen that you might be currently purchasing. So if you are able to replace the purchased ingredients that you are currently buying in with new products that you make in-house from your byproducts, it's a double saving. You are not only reducing your food waste and the food cost, but you are also reducing the cost of buying those products. Because my homemade pineapple syrup will pretty much always be cheaper than a bought-in fruit syrup from a supplier. And it's a very passive technique again. It just boils in the stock. I just have to strain it and then it just reduces. It's a passive technique. It's something where I don't need to stand, I don't need to blend, I don't need to mix, I don't need to stir. It just reduces itself. And when I have it done, I pop it in the freezer where it's gonna last me for a year. And then when my bartenders are making new cocktails, they can use that new fruit syrup in their cocktails. My pastry chefs can use it in ice creams, in cakes. My chefs can use it maybe as a glaze on yakitori, for example. There are so many ways a pineapple syrup can be used in sweet or savory. There's so many opportunities where it can be incorporated, whether on a buffet, whether in your kitchen directly. So extracting the flavor and reducing it down and concentrating it is super easy way to utilize all sorts of your byproducts. And that's with all the items that I have here for tasting. And I have a watermelon here that is one of my all-time favorite ingredients to work with. So, how many of you have ever tasted watermelon rind? The hotelier. 1, 2, 3, okay. Okay, oftentimes I get 0. What's that? So when we look at watermelon, you kind of have like 3 or 4 different parts on one watermelon. So you obviously have that very outer layer, the dark green kind of skin of that, that if you would try to bite into it, it's quite hard to bite through, and it's not a really nice texture that you want to have eating. So what I'm doing with watermelons, and the way that I like to do it, is to pretty much peel it twice. You first go around quickly with a knife, you take off that one layer of a dark green skin, and then after that you go and then you start taking off the white part of the watermelon. So this is typically how chefs are doing it in the kitchen. You go all together. You would typically have this attached in one piece. This is how chefs do it. If you are able to separate these things, you can make your life so much easier, and you can actually save some money, because this costs you money, because this costs you the same as you paid for the whole watermelon. And it's typically 20 to 30% of the weight of a watermelon. So from a 10 kilo piece of watermelon, you would have at least 2 or 3 kilos of the rind. And it's a free ingredient in your kitchen because you already paid for it, and it's typically just like a cucumber. So it has a very subtle flavor. It works well in savory or sweet ways. Anyone who wants to taste it? Anyone who never tasted before and would like to have a little bit of a watermelon rind? Then just please have a taste and tell me what you think. But this is something that you already paid for, can be used, and it's so easy to use. If you are able to separate the green part from the white part, then it's something that can be incorporated into, let's say, your chutney. So maybe you are making a watermelon rind chutney, or maybe you are making a homemade chutney of any kind of ingredient that you have. Maybe it's a mango chutney. And what if you would replace that mango with watermelon rinds? You already have watermelon rinds in-house. Sure, it's not going to be the same, but it's not the point. The thing is that if you have a homemade chutney on your buffet, then you might as well try to incorporate a byproduct that you already paid for. And watermelon rind is oftentimes a very good start because it's abundant and you oftentimes have it in large quantities. And having a single byproduct in large quantities means that it's easier and more practical for me as a chef to work with that ingredient. So I don't have to work with a handful here, a handful there, and then figuring out how I'm going to use it. Instead, if I'm using 100 kilo of watermelon a day, I know for a fact that I will have 20 kilo of watermelon rind every single day in my kitchen. So it's something that I can pretty much count with. And that way, I can count with it in my production as well. That means that I can count with incorporating 20 kilo of watermelon rinds every day, maybe into my curries, maybe into my stir fries, maybe I can make like a pakora or fritters. Maybe I can use it for a chutney, I can use it in a sweet or savory way, I can do anything with it, pickle it, ferment it, use it in stir fries, use it in ways that I'm using any other vegetable, because it pretty much is just like any other vegetable. And the amount of trimming that we are going to create from every ingredient is something that matters quite a lot. And just to demonstrate very quick way what I was talking about with the black truffle, and I do have to admit that I did cut my finger live, just a little bit, but that's okay. So things like carrots and cucumbers and things that I mentioned as part of the black truffle. there is such a big difference if I'm working with, especially with carrots of these sizes, whether I'm going to trim off here or whether I'm going to trim off here. Oh, no, 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 that's perfectly fine. I think I'm going to survive.
It's not in the plate, hello. It's a tiger on there. No worries.
So, and trust me, there are chefs who are doing this. There are chefs who are trimming that much of a carrot. And I don't care, I don't have time, and I just have to do my job, and this is what we get. And this is oftentimes the reality in kitchens. And reducing the amount of actual trimming is the easiest place to start in every kitchen, because it's something that's available to you right now in this very moment. You don't have to make operational changes, you don't have to have a strategy, you don't have to create new guidelines, you don't have to come up with anything new. You can simply walk into your kitchen and tell your chefs like, hey, we're gonna take 15 minutes right now. This is the expected yield of every ingredient that I want to have in my kitchen. This is how much I want from a carrot, from the cucumber, from the lettuce, from everything that I'm using. It's something that is available to you right now in this very moment, today or tomorrow. Reducing the actual amount of trimming on ingredient is something that can be done right away and has an immediate impact. Because if you start bringing it down from 2 centimeter to half a centimeter, then just think about the amount of ingredients per kilo that you are using in your kitchen and how much could be saved. And it's one of the easiest steps that you can start with. So this is for ingredients and for trimmings. And it's same with the lettuce that I have here, which is a beautiful lettuce. And so many chefs will just go right in and take off for like 1/4 of that. While if you look at it, the very bottom is like no more than a centimeter or half a centimeter that needs to be trimmed. And it's something that 5-minute showcase or discussion can change. You can simply show your chefs how much you want to trim of every ingredient and have that as kind of a new yield expectations that you have in your kitchen. A super easy thing to do that is available to anyone right away in any moment. So I will cover, I will be coming to questions to you in just about a minute, but I anticipate one question that I will answer that right away, because it comes up in just about every session that I have, and it's, what if I don't have time for this? This is the most common thing that I get, but we don't have time to do these things. How can I do that? And I get it. But I can tell you that there is no time required to start with food waste prevention. And the reason is because it comes back to the mindset that I shared at the beginning. The food waste prevention starts in our minds of how we look at our ingredients and how we want to use them. And the reason it doesn't require time is that because for too long there has been a message around food waste reduction that I think that was shared in a kind of incorrect way. So many people would tell you that to reduce food waste, you have to do this, upcycle that, you can turn your byproducts into this and that. Absolutely right. But the food waste is not about reduction, it's about prevention. And that's a very big difference, because reduction means that I'm reducing something that I have already created. So it's looking at the problem after I have it. And that is not sustainable in long term, because I perpetually keep creating a problem or an issue for myself that then I try to figure out how to reduce. With food waste prevention, we are taking a step back in the process. So that means that I don't try to figure out what to do with my byproducts after I created them. I try to figure it out before I created them. And that reframe makes all the difference. Because what I like to say is that the food waste is not created in the prep kitchen, it's created in the chef's office. Because it is at that moment when you are creating your menu and you write your dishes down that you already know the level of byproducts and trimmings you are going to have from your byproducts. So if I'm putting mashed potatoes on my menu, I know for a fact that there are going to be potato peels. It is at that moment I have to decide what is going to happen with those potato peels every day. Because if I don't, then I'm offloading my responsibility to my chef de parties. And we can't blame our chefs. Thank you so much. So while I save myself in here, just bear with me for a second. By the way, this has never happened to me live before. I swear, it's not vegan, that's why I didn't suck on it. Thank you. The refrain between the reduction and the prevention is everything that makes a difference. It's the most important step that you can take to take the food waste reduction from your prep table back into the office when you're writing a menu, creating your dishes. Take it a step back and think about my level of byproducts and potential waste before it is being created. If I decide at that moment, then what I'm essentially doing is that I'm creating circular menus and I'm slowly creating a zero waste system in my kitchen. And the zero waste is never about the zero, but it's about doing as much as possible with what we have, focusing on reducing as much as we can rather than focusing on the perfect zero. That's it from my side today. Now, I would love to hear, thank you so much. Thank you. I would love to hear any questions that you might have. That was very quick, okay? I do have recipes what I'm doing, but they are online as part of the online course that I have. So I'm not really big on like publishing recipes here and there. Not because I'm protecting, I could give you tons of recipes, but it's not what I like to start with. I don't want to create the perception that recipes are the most important, because recipes are the secondary. You first need to have the system and the operational sorted out before you go to recipes. But I do have recipes.
I thought I was loud enough, sorry. So how do you make those? Like, I understand you boil the bread. What do you do after that? You baked it? Or like, what do you do?
The cracker.
I got confused.
The cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a bread puree that you boil the bread, and you have a bread puree basically made. And you mix all the dry ingredients, and then you spread it on a silpat, on a silicone sheet. You bake it 160 for an hour.
Bake 160.
Then bring it down until it's dry.
Okay.
So it's pretty much like, it's like a regular flaxseed cracker recipe. There is like nothing special about that. It's only the fact that you are using a puree from byproducts that are typically not used.
Okay, so you're just baking it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's baking. So
Got it.
cook it, mix it, spread it on a sheet, bake it until it's fully dry, and you have it ready.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah? Two more questions here, yeah?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I love your work, big fan. And I know in some of your, it's very inspiring. I know in some of your video, you mentioned, of course, that it's always better to go for organic products, right? Because of, you know, we know that many of our ingredients nowadays have pesticides. So what would be your recommendation for chefs who cannot always go fully organic?
Yeah, very good question, and something that I get a lot as well. It's not a requirement to have organic produce for us to start zero waste cooking or to use our byproducts. And of course, I'm not an expert on chemicals and pesticides as well. But from what I research and from the information that I have, it really comes down to the type of ingredient that we have. So one thing that I never recommend is to using, for example, citrus fruits that are not organic. And that is because the peel is porous. That means it has small holes that anything that is sprayed on the citrus skin is going to be soaked in. So if you wash it, it doesn't help because it's gone inside, you know, so you can't peel it away. And the peel is very thick, so it absorbs everything. But then we look at, you know, carrots and cucumbers. Well, I hate to tell you, but that pesticides doesn't live on the skin. It's everywhere. It's inside through that product because the pesticides are not only applied directly on the skin, but they are being watered with pesticides mixed with water, and there is seed coating. So from the moment that the seed is sprouting, it's soaking in the pesticides. I'm not saying that this is an evil product, because you can wash it off, you can wash something off, but by peeling it, you are not actually reducing the amount of pesticides you are going to consume, because there are chemicals inside that product. In fact, why I don't recommend peeling it only because it's not organic is that because the peels and skins contains majority of the nutritional value of almost every product. So a carrot peel has more nutritional value and flavor than the inside of the carrot. Same goes for a cucumber, zucchini, and almost every ingredient. For example, a cauliflower head. In cauliflower leaves, you have 3 times the amount of nutrition of the cauliflower florets. So the leaves are more healthy and more nutritious than the cauliflower florets. Potato peels taste more potato-y than the potato itself without the peels. So there is so much flavor and nutrition in our ingredients. So simply by peeling it, you are not reducing the amount of pesticides as much as we like to think. There is a difference with the citruses, of course, and things that have very thick skin that if anything is sprayed on it, then it would stay on the skin. But again, just because I peeled my regular watermelon, it doesn't mean that now it became organic, because you have that chemical everywhere. You might take off that outer layer, but oftentimes a good wash and a good scrub on the water reduces like 80% of your chemicals on that. At least that's from my research, but again, I'm not an expert on that. That's what I recommend, that's what I learned, that's what I've been told. But not having organic products is not something that I would let myself to stop me from doing it, and it's something that I'm doing at home as well. There was the next question there?
Okay, from what you show is very fascinating, but I think the problem is we don't know what type of fruit or vegetable peels that we can use. I mean, nobody taught us in school or even like in-house, like, so we're not sure which one is safe to eat or which one is not. So this is the first question.
Majority of our ingredients are fully edible. Almost everything. It does get a little bit trickier in tropical countries like Thailand because, for example, let's take mango skins. There are so many, probably so many of you who are going to tell me that you eat mango skins, right? But if you take it to Europe or you give it to someone from Western, for example, there is a thing called urushiol in a mango skin, which is similar to a poison ivy, which many people are allergic to. So what does that mean? Well, mango skin is technically edible because you are eating it and you are fine, but some people might have allergic reaction to it. So there are certain products that I don't recommend using in commercial kitchens only for the sake of avoiding someone having an unexpected allergic reaction. Same with papaya skin. Like papaya skin is technically edible, but it contains latex. And some people are allergic to latex. And latex is not typically something that you have on your plate, so you might not be aware of. So just for the sake of not triggering an unexpected allergy, I would stay away from certain ingredients. But it's something that is quite easily researchable. Quite a lot of those ingredients are covered in my book as well, of what can be consumed and what can be not. In general, if you have one fruit in one piece, the peels and the seeds are oftentimes totally edible and consumable as well. But again, I'm not an expert on all of the fruits and vegetables that exist, and I would recommend to do your own research on anything that's possible. But I can tell you that in Europe, what we have as ingredients and root vegetables and all of those things as the regular things like tomatoes, cucumbers, potatoes, carrots, etc., peppers, completely edible. Everything is 100% edible. Oftentimes more nutritious than the flesh that we are typically using.
Thank you. Quick question, one more. What is your opinion about the food waste in the hotel buffet? Like, how can we reduce the waste that's come from buffet, but we cannot save the food because it's past the time, the safety stop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I experience it has been thrown away a lot. So what can we do with that, and how can we prevent that?
With that, like if it's past that 4 hours block and you can't use it anymore, then nothing. It's waste. There is no way of compromising like health and safety of anyone. So if something has to be thrown away, it's got to go to the bin. What you can do, however, is to reduce those amounts of how much is going to be served and displayed. And that's something that I actively encourage, to have only really the necessary, as much as you have. So one of the good things that you can do on the buffet is that typically you know your trends of when you have the rush coming in, and towards the end you might not have as many people on the buffet as well. So what you want to do is to slowly start downsizing. As you do your refills at the end, you want to swap a big container for a smaller container. So instead of having a big bowl of something, you're going to have a bit smaller bowl of something. If you have like a very big buffet, a very big spread, you might want to cancel 1, 2, 3 tables, put some props up on there, just quick shift, and we only have this part for the last 30 minutes of our buffet. But I want to downsize as much as possible towards the end to limit my essential amount of food waste. Because you will always have essential amount of food waste from the buffet. There's no way around it. But because I'm not willing, or nobody's willing to compromise anyone's health and safety for that. So something is always going to be in the bin. You can influence the amount that's going to go to that bin from those leftovers by downsizing and everything. Of course, not to the point of running out of the food, but you know better than I of what are your trends in your buffet and what is the kind of acceptable way of downsizing your containers, refilling towards the end with less and less food. There is a space for more questions.
Okay, I just have one comment. I thought it was great. Thank you, Chef. Very engaging, great perspectives. I think over the yesterday and today, there's been a lot of interesting perspectives. I was just having a chat and saying, I almost feel like 20 years ago that this is the beginning of when OTA started, right? We weren't really commercial, so those that are a little bit older, we weren't really weren't really sure how it was going, weren't really sure of the deals and the commissions and will it really work, not work. Some people got in early, some people didn't. Today we're all working with OTAs. We all have our own direct, our own digital platforms. And I feel things like we're seeing today is innovative. And I was like, wow, chefs are really need to learn, upscale, change, adapt, grow, just like a commercial person. Stop doing paper contracts, and most of our business is coming online now. I think won't take too long that this we'll be calling you chef and not a zero waste chef.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Thanks, Yannick. And so many takeaways, but I'm going to use one of your philosophies, which I think is huge, is the prevention word, right?
Yeah.
That for me is like, oh, yeah, I get it. That's so cool. But no, to echo Yannick's words, thank you so much. You can see how much we've got out of this as a group, and we're beginning a journey. We're climbing Everest, but we're going to get there. And we have the ambition of being a market leader with our competitors in this space. And we will get there, but it's going to be through support from yourself and people like Ken and the team at Winnow. But we know that you've got a hectic flight schedule and you're off to China next, so we wish you luck with that. And trust that you'll enjoy your stay in Bangkok, although it's short. And we hope that we can have you back again in the future. So thank you, Chef. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.